In this video, it's the 7th annual, Tabletop Minions Awards. It's the end of the year once again. It seems like time goes by faster and faster every year, doesn't it? Anyway, the end of the year means that it's time for the annual Tabletop Minions Awards. I'm all dressed up with no place to go, so I'm here to tell you about some of the coolest things that I enjoyed this year. You might want to, also check them out as well. I'll have links to everything down in the description below if you want to take a look at, for yourself. And now, in no particular order, here we go. I was finally able to get my hands on this after wanting it for a while. I first really learned that it was finally on its way to market at Gen Con this year in Indiana. It's Battletech Aces Scouring Sands from Catalyst Game Labs. This box set includes 9 plastic mechs, no assembly required, which I appreciate. Actually, I love that all the Battletech minis, don't have to be built for the most part. They're just all, that's really nice. Scrape some old lines and you're good. But the main benefit to Battletech Aces is not the models in the box, it's that it's designed to allow you to play Alpha Strike in a solo or cooperative campaign situation. Alpha Strike, if you don't know, is a simpler version of what's sometimes called classic Battletech, right? Like Battletech has been around for something like more than 40 years and is a pretty densely packed game. Each mech usually has an entire 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, affiliated with it for tracking like damage to the mech and heat and ammo and all kinds of stuff like that. When Alpha Strike came out, originally in 2013, but then with a great box set back in 2022, each mech was then tracked on a single playing card instead of a huge sheet. And by that doesn't mean that they just shrunk everything down really super tiny so you couldn't read it. They just, simplified things. Alpha Strike is a fundamentally streamlined game and frankly appeals to me more than the regular Battletech. Now that said, I'm glad that they have both versions available for both types of people, right? And now they have even more choices because, regular Alpha Strike for people who want to destroy their friends, and then also now Battletech Aces on top of Alpha Strike for folks who want to play co-op with their friends. And then even a solo mode for when you want or, need to play without friends. I made a video more about the box set and everything like that recently, Pachow, so you can check that out, if you're interested. Another game that I'm enjoying recently is Trench Crusade, and that game won a TMA last year in 2024. If you haven't heard of Trench Crusade, I've made several videos about it, and you can check those out here if you'd like. Pachow. But now, due to all of their success, they've actually moved into the world of plastic models this year with their first release, the Prussian Staatstruppen Warband. I first built my, models from that box at VinciCon back in October, and I'm now painting them on Twitch on Monday nights and Friday mornings at twitch.tv/tabletopminions. Stop by and check them out if you want. These models are pretty spectacular in my opinion. Great detail and excellent poses. I also made a more in-depth video about the box a few months back, Pachow, that you could check out if you're so inclined. The plastic, as I said at that point in the video back then, is manufactured by Archon Studio out of Poland, and it's really nice quality, really sturdy, high-impact polystyrene, like the Games Workshop or Malifaux quality, and pretty easy to build. Each model has, some options for you, like weapons and heads mostly, but they're not superposable, which kind of makes sense because they're in some, like I said, kind of dynamic poses already. It looks like they'll be releasing some new Prussian plastics sometime in the upcoming new year. A box of 2 Sniper Priests, a box of Staatstruppen, and a box of Yeomen. Now, from the silhouettes in these teaser images, these Yeomen and Staatstruppen seem to be different sculpts, completely different sculpts than the ones that are in the current Warband box, so that'll be a nice bit of variety. My hope is that they release some new models for one of the Hell factions later in 2026, maybe even as early as Adepticon, potentially. More likely, they'll probably announce them at Adepticon in late March, and then we'll see them in stores, like this box is now, sometime afterwards. Next, I bought this book at the end of 2024, but I didn't get a chance to read it until this year, and I'm so glad that I did. It's called Blanche, The Rise of Grimdark, and it's an authorized biography written by John Wombat and Ruth Moreira, which I've probably mispronounced, and I apologize. It's all about the great John Blanche, of course, the master of Grimdark himself. You've probably seen his work directly if you've seen older books from like Warhammer and Warhammer 40K. His illustrations are like all over the work during his time when he was at Games Workshop. But you also see his ideas and influence in Grimdark to this day. The book goes through his like early life and influences and then talks extensively about the beginning days of Games Workshop, which is pretty interesting. It's filled with like awesome illustrations of his, many of which I don't think I've ever seen before. And then the book ends with like short pieces written about John by others like John Flindall, Tim Pollard, and Thomas Piernan, and how they remember working with him and how they were influenced by him and, stuff like that. It's a great read if you've like ever enjoyed John's work and are curious about how he, created and made the art that he did. One of my other favorite model sets this year, besides the Prussians, was the Stargrave automatons from North Star Military Figures. Pretty much all of the Stargrave and Frostgrave plastics from North Star are treasures for miniature hobbyists, especially if you love kit bashing. But these just really spoke to me this year. I can't really put my finger on it. I compared them to Games Workshop's new plastic servitors from one of this year's Kill Team releases, Pachow, and I really found the automatons to be way more to my liking. Like all of the Stargrave and Frostgrave plastics, they're ultimately interchangeable and customizable. But unlike most of the other sets, they're quite different. You got drill hands and gun hands and clamp hands and all that kind of stuff, and a huge selection of fun, like robot heads to help you kit bash nearly any project, whether you're using more of the North Star minis or anything, really. It really helps you to make your other models your own in very different ways. Plus, it's just cool to make, like normal automatons, for your Stargrave games as well, or, any other games that you'd like. Highly recommend. I've talked about Flames of Orion before, usually in the last few of my Adepticon booty videos, because I would, bring some Flames of Orion stuff back, the early versions before, it's an indie mech game by Steve from the Hive Scum podcast, which the Hive Scum podcast themselves are also a TMA winner in the past. This year, Flames of Orion had a successful crowdfunding that raised $35,000 plus, and now you can get the official 1.0 version of the game, even if you weren't, in on the Kickstarter. You can order the printed version or the PDF from their website. Link in description, as I said before. But there's also a free version if you, just want to try it out as well. Sam Lenz and I have played this and enjoyed it, and I feel like it fills a sweet spot between full-blown Battletech and the streamlined Alpha Strike game as far as complexity is concerned. In my opinion, it's more easily understandable than regular or, classic Battletech is. And since it's model agnostic, you can use mechs you already have, or you can check out the selection of poured resin or STLs that they have, for all your mech needs, again, right there on his website. If Battletech seems like too much, and Alpha Strike seems like too little, I'd tell you to take a look at Flames of Orion. Like I said, there's even a free version. Lastly, there's another model kit for the Tabletop Minions Awards, and it's actually from Games Workshop. I've not been too interested in Warhammer stuff lately. You may have noticed it, if you've been watching the channel this year, but when the Kill Team box with the Sanctifier models in it came out, I took notice. I painted up some of them and even made a video about it, Pachow, and I recently bought the standalone Kill Team Sanctifiers box so that I would have more of them available to me for kit bashing and whatnot in the future. They're a really varied group of weirdos and religious zealots, and many of them can be outfitted in a few different ways, different, weapons and such. I plan on using them in miniature agnostic rule sets, of course, but like the weird zealotry can be a theme of nearly any kind of sci-fi game, which makes this box more useful for more games than, frankly, many other Games Workshop kits. Also, many of the models are designed with a lot of different head options available to them, which generally means that you can very easily use heads from other companies as well, like North Star stuff for Stargrave or Frostgrave, and heads from, like, say, War Games Atlantic as another example. So that's my list of awards for 2025. Congrats to all the winners. If I'm being honest, it took me longer to compile a list this year. Partially, I think it was due to the struggles of this year, my mom's long illness and then passing a few months ago. But I also feel like there wasn't as much new stuff this year in wargaming. Maybe due to the economy and tariffs. I'm no pundit, but I'm hoping that this next year is better for me. It's better for the industry and also for all of you as well. What wargaming stuff would be in your awards list? If you could start an awards list. There's no reason not to, but if you had one, what would be in it? Let us all know down in the comments below. And one more time this year, I would appreciate some depressmentation of the like button. It really does help get these videos out to more people, and I just appreciate it. Every time you push that button, it makes me smile a little bit, even if I don't know why. Let's say that's the case. Also, while you're down there, there's a subscribe button, which also makes me smile, and it's free. Thanks for watching.